Hello everyone, and welcome to Ariana's Food Adventures. This adventure we're diving right to our second part of our series by making some meal prep meals. We're going to start by making some breakfast sandwiches that are easy to reheat on the go, then mason jar salads that are perfect for the busy work week, followed by some Dijon glazed salmon with roasted sweet potato and broccoli. That way it's an easy dinner for the busy work night. Yum! Let's get cooking, shall we? Alright, to begin our breakfast sandwiches, go and preheat the oven to 375. Alright, so I got a small little skillet right here. We're going to drizzle some regular olive oil, and we're going to put this on a medium-low burner because we're going to saute some mushrooms, leeks, and some spinach. Alright, so before I start slicing our mushrooms, I'm just going to take a little paper towel and just give it a nice little wipe, just because sometimes there's some excess dirt on those mushrooms, and look at that, nice and clean. And then just take the stem off, just like that. Alright, now that our mushrooms have been all clean, let's just give them a nice little slice, shall we? Alright, just put that in the bowl just like that. We're going to set these aside for just a moment. Alright, so I just went and rinsed over our leek, and look how clean that looks. And we're just going to give this some nice thin slices. Alright, so we just sliced up our leeks. Let's just set this aside for right now. Let's add our mushrooms right on in. Season with some good old salt, some black pepper. Alright, now that we sauteed our mushrooms, let's set these aside and get our leeks sauteing. Using the same skillet just so that way it keeps things simple and less cleanup, right? So just some more olive oil into it, dump our leeks in, and we'll saute these as well, and we're going to season with salt and pepper. Alright, so I've been sauteing our leeks for a few minutes and they have wilted, and look how good that looks, and it smells so good in here between the mushrooms and the leeks. Yum. Alright, we're going to set these aside as well so they can cool. Alright, just a little more olive oil because we're going to add some spinach to this now. Nice handful of spinach, and it may seem like a lot of spinach, folks, but I promise you they will cook down just like the mushrooms and like the leeks did. And again, season with salt and some black pepper. Alright, remember how we had like a big handful of spinach? Look how much it's cooked down. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this to our cutting board. We're going to let this cool for a few minutes before I go and give it a nice little rough chop. Now I decided to do spinach, leeks, mushrooms to my egg mixture for my egg sandwiches. Now feel free to whatever mixture you like. If you want to do spinach and feta, that's always a good one. Maybe roasted tomatoes could be good in this. Whatever you choose. Or if you just want to leave everything out and just do like egg, bacon, sausage to make a more protein one, that's perfectly fine. Whatever works best for your egg sandwiches. This is my favorite combo. Alright, now we've chopped that up. Let's put that in a bowl. Alright, remember my little egg silicone molds from my first video? These are going to be put to some good use. So what I'm going to do is, I know it's silicone, they shouldn't stick, but just to save myself a headache and just to ensure they don't stick, I'm going to spray some non-cooking spray just to make sure. Alright, just to make my life easier, and when I go to pour each egg mixture in, I'm using a liquid measuring cup. So let's just dump 4 eggs right on in. Last and final egg. A little splash of good old milk just to get it nice and creamy and fluffy. And of course, season each and every layer with salt and pepper. That way each layer is nice and flavorful. So some salt, some pepper, mushrooms right on in, just like that. Our leeks, some spinach. Take a fork or a whisk and just give it a nice little whisk to combine everything. And to each one, just pour a little of the egg mixture, mushroom, spinach. And just go slow because it may dump out pretty fast. See how it can be kind of fast? So just keep a close eye on it. Just go slow and carefully. Good. And you want to fill it to the top. Alright, so I'm going to sprinkle a little feta cheese on top of my egg mixtures. And look at that. Perfect. Easy peasy, right folks? Alright, again, we're going to put this in the oven, 375 for about 15 maybe 20 minutes. Alright, so while our eggs are cooking, I got some breakfast sausage patties here that I'm just going to cook in our air fryer. I'm going to cook them about 400, 8 to 12 minutes till they're cooked through. Alright, so I just cooked our sausage patties in the air fryer, and look at that. So easy, folks. And it's great because you can multitask. I was cooking the sausage patties while the eggs were cooking. Doesn't get simpler than that. Alright, so remember how I told you to go and spray the pan? This is why, because they literally just pop out just like that. Alright, so I got a nice English muffin right here. I'm just going to give it a nice little slice. I mean, it should be already pre-sliced, but just to make my life a little bit easier. Then I'm going to take our delicious egg and put our sausage on just like that. And if you want to toast the English muffin ahead of time, you can. Just note that it might get a little chewy when you go reheat in the microwave, but feel free to do whatever works best for you. We're going to wrap it with some parchment paper, that way it doesn't get freezer burn. And then once it's been wrapped with parchment paper, wrap it with aluminum foil. An easy peasy breakfast sandwich. Take it out of the aluminum foil, take it out of the parchment paper and then, you know, wrap paper towel around it, put it in the microwave for a minute or two, if that. That way it reheats it completely through and you have an easy breakfast sandwich during the weekday. How easy was that? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill it to 1/2 cup of extra virgin olive oil, teaspoon of salt, just to flavor our dressing for our mason jar salad, some black pepper. All right, teaspoon of 1/2 of Italian seasoning, zest of 3 lemons. All right, we're going to cut these lemons in half, and I'm going to use my electric juicer just to make sure I get every bit of juice from these lemons. Makes my life easier. And plus that's great because it traps the seeds and the pits for me too, which is awesome. All right, got our juicer, and we're just going to dump the lemon juice right on in. Look at that, how easy is that? All right, put the lid on, make sure everything's secure, make sure that's closed, because last time I shook this, the thing was open and I got it everywhere. So make sure everything's closed. Give it a little shake, and we're gonna set our dressing to the side for right now. All right, so to our Instant Pot, we're gonna add 1 cup of quinoa, 1.5 cups of water, and then we're gonna just cook this on a high for 1 minute, release the pressure, and just let it hang out for 15 minutes. All right, so our quinoa is all cooked. I'm just gonna put this in a separate bowl so it can cool faster, and we're gonna set that bowl aside too. All right, so while our quinoa is cooling down, I'm gonna prep up our veggies for our mason jar salads. So I got 2 green bell peppers. I'm just gonna give those a nice little dice to them. All right, last bit of the bell pepper, dump it right in the bowl just like that. Got our red onion right here, and it has been put in the freezer so that way it would not make me cry. An English cucumber, just cut the ends off, and that will make it easier to just peel off the plastic. Okay, cut the cucumber in half just to make it easier to cut in half again and again, so it's nice little quarters. Okay, give that a nice rough chop, just like that. Doesn't have to be perfect, but a nice little slice. Last but not least, some grape tomatoes. I'm just going to cut these bad boys in half, just like that. Just dump in the bowl. All right, last one. So to build your mason jar salad, you want to start with your salad dressing. That way your salad dressing is far away from your salad greens as possible. That way it doesn't get all soggy. So start with your salad dressing on the very bottom. And then you're going to put your beans, and then you want to put your hearty vegetables on top of that. Hearty vegetables such as like cucumber, bell peppers, tomatoes, you know, red onions. That way there's a nice little barrier between that stuff. And then like on top of your hearty vegetables, you could do other vegetables too, such as like, you know, let's say if you do zucchini, bean sprouts, you know, or even if you do like avocado, you just want to make sure the dressed avocado with some citrus so that way it doesn't brown on you. And then you want to add your pasta and grains. So in this case, we're using quinoa. And then last but not least, your salad greens. All right, now I've talked about how to assemble it. Let's go get these assembled, shall we? And we're going to start with about 1/4 cup for each one, just to make sure they're all evenly distributed. So start with 1/4 cup for each one. Dump that right on in. And I'm using about 1/4 cup for each salad, folks. So each salad gets roughly about 1/4 cup of the beans. 1/4 cup of Kalamata olives in each one. 1/4 cup of our green bell peppers right on in. All right, 1/4 cup of red onions, or I like to call them sometimes purple onions because they're more purple than red in my opinion, but that's okay for a nice little onion flavor. Now, if you don't care much for onions, you can certainly leave these out because I know sometimes red onions can be a little strong. About 1/4 cup of cucumbers, dumping them right on in. If you have a little extra, that's fine. Cucumbers are good for you. Nice 1/4 cup or heaping 1/4 cup of grape tomatoes right on in. Before we add our quinoa, let's add a nice little sprinkle of feta cheese in each bowl. I just love feta cheese in this. It's such a nice hearty cheese and it really holds up shape very well. All right, some quinoa right on in. Just dump it right into the bowl. Try not to make a mess like I am, but that's okay because easy cleanup. I can just wipe down the counter. We won't tell the hubby, right? All right, so I'm using a wonderful kale and arugula mix. I know it seems like a lot, but just force it right on and it'll go right on in and it's great. So we're just gonna do that for each one. And look at that, folks. Your mason jar salads are done for the week. And all you have to do is like literally take them to work with you, bring a, you know, container. You can use plastic, glass, whatever you prefer, and just dump the whole entire salad and your mason jar salad is done. Yum. I'm going to preheat the oven to 400, just like that. And just to ensure things don't stick, just lightly spray with a non-cooking spray. All right, so I got 2 rather medium large sweet potatoes. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna peel them and cut them up and put them in a bowl. All right, now that our sweet potato's been all peeled, let's go and dice it up. All right, we're just gonna drizzle some regular olive oil right on top, about a tablespoon or two. Some salt, some black pepper. All right, using your hands, let's just get that nice little toss just to combine everything. And you may want to spread it out just so that way it cooks evenly. All right, so we're gonna put this in the oven for about 10 minutes or so, and then we'll kind of flip it just to evenly brown the sweet potato. All right, so I got some lovely broccoli florets here, and I'm just gonna get that nice little chop just at the very end to break up those florets. All right, just take the last bit of broccoli right into the bowl, and again, we're just gonna keep the seasoning for the broccoli relatively simple. Just nice drizzle of olive oil, some salt, pepper, touch of garlic powder because it makes everything yummy. I mean, who doesn't like garlic, right? All right, give that a nice little toss. All right, we're just gonna set this broccoli aside just for a moment. All right, so we're gonna make our sauce for our salmon. It's a Dijon-based sauce. Now, if you don't like salmon, you can certainly use chicken. This Dijon would be perfect with chicken. So just 2 tablespoons of whole grain mustard, tablespoon of just regular Dijon mustard, tablespoon and a half of maple syrup, juice of 1 whole lemon. Remember, squeeze it cut side up, that way you don't get any seeds in there. All right, 1 garlic clove, just make sure you smash it just like that. That way it comes right out of the peel. Super easy, right? Minced garlic right in the sauce. Just a touch of salt and pepper, seasoning every layer. Make sure each layer is delicious. All right, just give that a stir just to combine everything. And our sauce for our salmon is done. All right, so I just pulled our sweet potatoes. They've been cooking for about 10 minutes, so we're just gonna give it like a nice little toss just to kind of evenly cook the sweet potatoes. So give that a nice little toss, and look how easy that doesn't stick to the pan. All right, back in the oven it goes. All right, so while the sweet potato cooks on the other side, I'm just gonna add our broccoli. Gonna line our salmon on the baking dish just like that. All right, place the last piece just like that. And a touch of salt to each salmon fillet. Just seasoning it just to make sure it's well flavorful. All right, we're gonna pop this in the oven for about 10 minutes or so, and then we're gonna bring it back out because we're gonna put that Dijon glaze on the salmon. All right, so I just pulled our salmon, and look at that. And look at that beautiful roasted broccoli. So we're just gonna put the glaze on top of the salmon, put it back in for another 5 minutes, and it's all done. So let's take our Dijon sauce just right over the salmon, just like that, folks. Just gonna brush the sides too. Might as well. That way each part of the salmon is nice and flavorful too. Ooh, look at that beautiful salmon, that roasted broccoli, our roasted sweet potatoes. And there you have it, folks. My sheet pan dinner. Super easy, super yummy. And the best part is you made dinner ahead of time. So all you have to do is just plate it up and reheat it. And the best part is we lined those baking sheets with some aluminum foil. So cleanup could not have been easier than that. Well, folks, I know that was quite a bit of cooking to do all in one day, but think about the time that you save rather than spending each and every day making that meal, making it for work, trying to figure that out. It's all taken care of. It's great because all you have to do is just reheat that breakfast sandwich. Enjoy your mason jar salads. They stay fresh from day 1 to day 5. It's great. And dinner's taken care of. All you have to do is just reheat that dinner. And doesn't get simpler than that. But stay tuned because next week we're going to do some no-cook meal prep meals. How, you wonder? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned for next week and I will show you how.